Well, landscape designers often seek to cut their design time by starting with a base drawing. And it's not uncommon for them to get an AutoCAD DWG file from an architect and then expect to use that as a base plan. The architect often gets his or her base plan from a survey firm, and here's an example of a drawing that's been in the hands of a survey firm. It's been passed to an architect. The architect has developed the design. It's a series of houses on one block, and we're looking here at an entrance to one of these, and our designers have been asked to further manipulate the design that the architect has put here. They're being asked to flesh out the design. If you look at the drawing, the first thing I would do when I look at that drawing is there's a lot of information here that we would want to hide, and the way to hide that is to find the layer that it's on and then turn off that particular layer. But here, if I click on the Layers tab and scroll down, can you see the blue 201-3 layer has entities on it, 40 in fact, but there are no objects on a large number of layers. The 104 spot height for the natural surface has none. There is a non-printing layer there, a break line layer, but there's nothing on that. But as I scroll down, you can see quite the largest set of layer names that I think I've ever seen in a drawing that we're expected to work on as a landscape design team. So what we really need to do before we start turning off layers and hiding things and cleaning the drawing up, I would suggest that you go to Tools and Purge Unused Objects. So this drawing is just called Purge Demo at the moment, and the automatic purge routine or cleanup routine in gCADPlus is now run. It's removed 136 layers and 6 textiles and 107 blocks, so the file size should have been reduced substantially, and the drawing should work a little more speedily in our hands. But what I will do is I'll go File and Save As, and we're on the desktop, and that one was called Purge Demo, so let's call this Purge Demo 2, and we will save it, and then we'll close it, and then we'll open it again. Purge Demo 2. We'll open again, and again I'm going to look at the layers in the drawing. So I come up here to the layers, and can you see there's still a lot of layers that have no information, no entities on them. So we need to run that purge routine again, and this is common with CAD software. If you've got a drawing like this, you may well have to run this cleanup tool 2 or 3 times to really fix it. Now this time we're going to remove another 42 layers. So we had 136 in the first pass, now 42. So we can OK that, and we'll do a save and a close just as we did before, and then we'll open the Demo 2 and look at our layers. Now all used layers are there, and they all have something on them, so we've cleaned up, we've already made a substantial change to the drawing. Really worth looking closely at the information in this layers palette. Notice the red lock here, so there are a lot of layers that in fact are locked. So I'd be inclined, even though it's going to be tedious for us, I'd be inclined to unlock all layers. I don't think we have a mechanism for unlocking all, but I think we can perhaps highlight that one. No, and I'll find the last in the list and do that, and we unlock all of those. So I think that one hit has unlocked everything down in this zone through here. So that's a little bit messy, but a quicker way of doing it. We can OK and then regenerate the drawing. So I suspect that, and I've not noticed much in the way of a change, but I suspect an awful lot of the information is carried on some of the layouts that are here. Notice the existing site 1 to 100 front. So there's an awful lot of information on these layouts. So I'd be inclined to just work my way through, and I'll delete that one now, remembering all we're after. I was going to say all we were after is a simple base plan. Now I've got some information here. It tells me it can't remove that layout because it's containing some objects. So I shall zoom extents, and lo and behold, there's some information way out here. So I won't bother you with it, but we'll just do a save here, and I think now we can delete that layer. So I go through the routine of doing the same on all of these layouts and try and delete that layout. Same thing again. So we need to zoom extents. So there's material in all sorts of different places in this drawing. So again, I'll hold commentary and I'll just work through and remove all of these. I want to get back to just the model. Well, I've now removed all of the layouts. If you look across just above the command line, there are no layout tabs there at all. Let's go to layers again, and we'll scroll down through. We still seem to have done well, but I've had to remove quite a lot of information and erased it. So let's just run our cleanup routine again. So purge unused objects, and we can, a couple of layers and a couple of blocks have now been removed. Now I think I've started with a file size of about over 4 megabytes. If we go to file and file size now, we're still a fairly large file, and I'd like to look at that in a little while. But can you see we now have a relatively clean drawing to start working with, and now it's a matter of, if you don't need, let's say, the information on this layer of spot heights 104 elevation, you can simply use tools, isolate a layer. We want 104 elevation, we'll isolate it, and there we are. We can zoom extents here, then just shrink it a little and grab all of those and delete them. And we now want to go back to our layers tab and make sure all new layers, all used layers, are back on. So we've now removed some of the spot heights. This one's on a layer 205 GB height. So I'd work my way through isolating these. I'll do one more. Isolate that one. Takes a little while, it's a big drawing, and grab all of those spot heights. If you're not going to use the spot heights, then you can delete them. You might of course wish to include spot heights. In that case, you just turn off the layer. So we'll turn those layers all back on again. All the used layers are back on. And you see we're starting to clean things up, and we're starting to see the underlying structure. This is a block called ground 1, and this is a deciduous tree, and these have been put in, I suspect, from the survey firm. But can you see I'm now working through a strategy that will clean things up and enable us to work with the base information. Well, I've been working away on the file and removing layers and isolating bits and pieces to clean things up, saving copies as I go. If I go to File and File Size, my file size is now 526 kilobytes, so it's getting much smaller than it was originally. But even before you start using this as a base drawing, just do take the time to look carefully at it. For example, the first thing I spot is this line here, which is on a layer called 903 fence line, and it also runs through here. And where does it join to? It joins to another line, 903 fence line layer. So I suspect that somehow the conversion process has moved, is thrown in some extra lines there. I'd be inclined to delete those lines, draw a new one from the end of the existing fence line to the end of this one, and then I'd match properties of the one that seems to be sitting in the right space in the right layer, and I'd match that to the other one. But I do need to, I think I miscued. I need to pick up the end of that one, move it to there. So now we have a layer 903 fence line, which makes a good deal more sense. So we've cleaned the drawing up, we've worked on it, we're relatively confident that we've blown away all blocks and information that isn't needed. Here's another one on 903 fence line running through there, and that's clearly an error. So you'd have the benefit of visiting the site and checking these sorts of things before you start your additional design work on this site. So I hope that helps how to handle files that come from another source.